We ask Allah to put barakah in the rizq of our donors. Allah must increase for them. Be it that pensioner that stays on a corner, or the business person, or the ordinary person in the street that comes with 2 rand and 5 rand. We ask Allah, oh Allah, grant barakah to them. Because wallahi al-azim, without their contribution and without their commitment towards creating some type of betterment for the people, what can relief institutions and organizations do? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase them and all of us, and create the unity and mahabbah between all of us, inshallah al-aziz, to continue to work together as one ummah in one community, to live and keep the flag of Islam flying high, inshallah al-aziz. I'm sure whilst the task team will continue to deliberate how best there can be ways forward in terms of this fund that has been generated here, but also to take the next step, inshallah. Jazakumullah wa assalamu alaikum.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa bihi nasta'een wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. To all our honorable institutions of relief and organizations and news media, and the coordinator, Sheikh Hashim, as the president of the MJC, and on behalf of our entire MJC, we'd like to express our sincere gratitude and thanks for a job well done. Even though we all know MJ is not a relief organization, but surely it can give guidance to the relief organization and be instrumental in helping, facilitating them to make the task easier. And that is by addressing the masajid and asking them to open their coffers and to open their doors for the masajid, for these collections. But being the youngest of the group of all the relief organizations, you've done a good job as a coordinator. I thank you for that. I am very glad. And then voices kept coming on board to assist with this funding effort. Alhamdulillah, because the pride is very special, because I have a relationship with Indonesia and Sulawesi per se. It's a very special bond. Our forefathers came from those established Islam in this part of the world. We all know that. So just an appreciation for them. There's a leave group done, and just an appreciation for them bringing Islam. Look at where we are today. Look at the way every going Cape Town, you see Muslim walking, from women with the niqab, men with the face, men with the, everywhere in the Western Cape you can go. You can find it. Through who? It started somewhere. It started somewhere with Sheikh Yusuf al-Makassari, Ibrahim, spreading Islam and defending Islam, make sure that he learned and taught people how to convey Islam to the others. Alhamdulillah. Then money can never pay for that. Money can, and that was the point, we need to get out to the people. What our forefathers have done for this country can never be repaid with money. Alhamdulillah. And this is the living gift to them, is show them our appreciation for what they've done for Islam in this part of the world. And alhamdulillah, we've done it, but we can do much better, inshallah.
SS, because MJC is mother body, and it's the body is unique in itself. It is unique, and the relief fund, we could have done better. We did well, alhamdulillah, but we could have done better. Inshallah, and maybe next time, inshallah, we will put our 150% in, inshallah. Shukran, jazakumullah khair.
When there's an extraordinary incident, then it requires an extraordinary response. And alhamdulillah, if we look at the Indonesian crisis, it never took long for the South African community, but particularly the Cape Town Muslim community, to respond not only with sympathy, but to actually respond with in kind, and to show their response through providing financial assistance. Alhamdulillah, from Islamic Relief side, within 6 hours our team was on the ground doing their assessments and figuring out what was the best way to respond to this crisis. Also working with other organizations that were on the ground and coordinating our efforts, alhamdulillah. And it was really very heartening for us when the call came from the MJC to coordinate the efforts of the South African NGOs that were working in this field or working towards raising funds for the Indonesian crisis. Because we all know that the history of the Muslims in South Africa, particularly Cape Town, with Indonesia is a long-standing one and goes back for centuries, especially the island of Sulawesi. We've got a special attachment to it. And indeed it was humbling when not only the MJC called upon us, but when we received to see the response from the Muslim community locally. And in particular, we want to commend the MJC on this initiative and the leadership shown. And then also the organizations that participated, that showed the willingness to put their hands together to work for a common purpose. And I think we need to see a lot more of this going forward, because we all have a collective responsibility to address the needs of the needy and marginalized people, not only in South Africa but in other parts of the world as well, because as we know, we are one ummah. Also, I'd like to not forget those people behind the scenes that played a pivotal and crucial role to translate our sentiments and our contribution into actual action on the ground. There are teams from various organizations and even those that are not part of organizations that were really at many times, as we heard from Maulana Adam, putting their lives on the line in order to bring assistance to those who are in need in Sulawesi and also later on in other parts of Indonesia. So not only for them, but also their families who supported them. Many of us are involved in humanitarian work, and as Maulana Abdul Khalik always says, our families that don't get the recognition they deserve for the supportive role that they play when we do what we do. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them and give them an equal reward for the contributions of those who are involved in this type of work. And then also to our community, our Muslim community, especially those in Cape Town, that responded when the MJC called, whether it was through the radio station or from the mimbar, for support for this cause. Whether it was a young child who gave up his pocket money, or people who sacrificed maybe some of their comforts or and at the time people were probably preparing for their annual holidays, who sacrificed for those who were in need. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from them. Every cent really made a difference, because literally every cent made a contribution to alleviating the plight of our brothers and sisters in Indonesia. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah, Brother Muhammad, Brother Yusuf Muhammad from Islamic Relief, and of course my very dear friend and my mentor. I learned a lot from Sheikh, and in this particular event I really learned more about Islam, about relief in general, and I even asked Sheikh Hashim Pek, my mentor in relief, to just give us a few moments of his time, just to give us a brief overview as well of his involvement.
I think on the offset, I just want to, on behalf of Muslim Hands South Africa and Muslim Hands International, to commend the MJC under the leadership and the auspices of Sheikh Irfan for putting together this initiative and for running with it and taking the time and the effort to get all the organizations, all the NGOs, the partners, to conclude or to confirm and agree to a collaboration to deliver aid in this way and to work on some type of fundraising strategy in which we can deliver our work better and it can relate into more practical outcomes in the affected areas. So I think most was said, but from our side we just want to commend in general the initiative from the MJC, as well as all the behind the scenes partners as was mentioned. In particular, I would just like to mention the excellent, the work from the hands that was in the working committee from the MGC side, which was Sheikh Zaid, Malana Sabri, mashallah, and Sister Mishka Daris, that is not here today, but the excellent, the work, lot of running around. And I think we all realize that, mashallah, it is one thing to wish and to make the niyyah for collaboration and to work together, but it is also a lot of hard work and a lot of type of cooperation, and everyone putting their heads and the hands and the hearts together, which I think was done, alhamdulillah. So from our side, we want to say a big shukran to all the partners, all the role players that was working hand in hand, and alhamdulillah, each and everyone that was busy on basically on the working committee, chatting late at night and trying to get things working from the graphic side, putting things out. Sheikh Zaid and Abu Talib again from the side of running around. I think he was of the youngest, but running around doing all the runs, most of the runs, alhamdulillah. Yeah, so shukran. And then also to Sheikh Adam Philanda. I think we all, as organizations that is on the ground there, we have from SA, we have our teams that gives us info and our people on the ground and our officers. But it's always nice, in amongst this initiative, one amongst us that went there and from this initiative itself and giving us, a live report. It's something very good. And I remember when we started out in the meetings, Sheikh Adam was very agitated because he said, no, subhanallah, I need to be there, I need to be there. So alhamdulillah, Allah has taken him there, and I think he did a fantastic job in the reporting and giving back the feedback, and also up to the last now today. So on behalf of Muslim Man South Africa, a big shukran to this collaboration, and may there be more to come, inshallah, and may we be able to reach more via these type of strategies, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. One of our previous speakers spoke about extraordinary events, calls for extraordinary action. And I think for Voice of the Cape, being the voice of those present here and our listeners, demonstrated the strength of this community when our actions are unified and focused towards a common cause. I think we shouldn't lose track of that, and we should learn from that lesson in future, that when we do and approach certain issues, it should always be for the common cause. And I think that is what most organizations do. It is for a common cause. Sometimes we lose the plot and we don't see that it is for a common cause. The lesson for Voice of the Cape, once again, it's been that when organizations work together, our community responds. And so we say shukran for the opportunity for being part of this event. Shukran.
Allah, and we thank Allah. Allah has blessed us. In fact, we need to be thankful to Allah a lot for our country that we're staying in. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Just last night, one of our senior members of Indonesia on that side told that he's not coming to visit Cape Town as was predicted. He's delaying it because of the amount of natural disasters that is taking place there. They need to see to the needs of their own country first. We all know the Palu situation, and after that the South Sumatra situation, and on the 22nd of January we had floods actually flooding the area of South Sulawesi, the island itself, and a lot of rivers has burst its banks, and one of the major dams had to be opened to prevent from a big volume of water. But to date, people that did Maningal was 57, but the latest is 68. 68 people did Maningal in the floods. It looks like there's a more readiness and a preparedness amongst the Indonesian people if something comes up, and they are kind of more prepared. and there are 1,700 plus people injured. And the houses that were destroyed, the homes that were destroyed is more than 5,000 homes. Homes and buildings, more than 5,000. And people that are displaced are just under 7,000, about 6,700 people that are displaced in emergency setups and emergency camps and so on. It is being said that it is the worst flood that has hit South Sulawesi in the last decade. And the areas that is most hit was Makassar city itself and Goa, the Katanga area.
So therefore, one has to acknowledge it's not always that imams gets acknowledged on a platform, because when we sit here and we speak about all of the organizations, the people that's really out to work there are our imams. And we take off our hats for the imams that has promoted it. Every time when we think that, okay, we finished, Maulana Abdul Khalik says, don't forget to announce this week again. And so it went on until we had finished. So we want to make dua, Allah Ta'ala strengthen our imams, because they are the ones that push the issues that are in the community. We are no longer in an era where imams are not familiar. Imams are familiar and they tackle the issues. But it's not always that they get to hear this kind of thing of where they are thanked and praised for the efforts that has been done. And then in conclusion, I want to say, as the Imam of Masjid al-Khair, I stand here as the Imam of Masjid al-Khair in Mitchell's Plain. You know, there was once a collection made years ago, and Maulana Hashim Qasim told me, you know, Sheikh, and this is by no way a means of looking down at any particular group or community or anything like that. It is just something that pops up sometimes. He had said, you know, Sheikh, we had made a collection, but amazingly, the poorest of areas always give the more, give the most. And it shows you the barakah that is there. So Masjid al-Khair, that falls under the Imamate Council of Mitchell's Plain, in the Republic of Mitchell's Plain, also records that for the area of Mitchell's Plain and where we are situated, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, we challenge everybody else to equal or better for the next one, inshallah ta'ala. And I make the point of also saying, while we have everybody here, the MJC has appointed a task team to look at the humanitarian side of Yemen and what is happening there. And we were waiting for the Indonesian chapter to finish with the collections so that we can move towards that. And so we welcome everybody to the next meeting that will be on the humanitarian side for Yemen, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khair al-jaza. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
But I want to just make mention of one thing, alhamdulillah, even though the amount does not translate, or we think does not translate in the efforts that were put out, or the cooperation from our community, the amount that we have, alhamdulillah, initially collected was 255,992 rand and 45 cents. This is before expenses. But this amount, we say, alhamdulillah, this amount came in 10 rands. People coming to the office bringing a 10 rand, bringing a 5 rand, bringing 100 rand. There was one instance where someone brought 600 Indonesian rupiah. And I was very pleased with it, and I wrote out the receipt and everything. And I googled the amount that it came to. It was 60 cents. I wanted to ask my receipt back, but alhamdulillah, you know, the effort that people came, and when they came with dua as well. And they made dua for our brothers and sisters in Indonesia. They came specially to the office to speak to whoever was taking on the money, so that they could have that interaction. So alhamdulillah, the amount is not
what we wanted it to be, but alhamdulillah it equates to a lot in terms of the support that was out there. Like Maulana said, there was two expenses. One expense was covered by DISEF from the money that was collected by them for the posters, and then we had to cover recently the money for the envelopes only, which was 6,000 Rand. So after expenses, we're sitting with 249,992 Rand 45 cents, and when divided into the three organizations, we're looking at 83,330 Rand 81 cents. Jazakum Allahu khair al-jaza. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So, effective ways of actually generating funds, because there is something called the donor fatigue that I think all of us are aware of, because we're basically also taxing the same organizations and the same business houses and so on. So we have to also now start to think out of the box of how we can actually, inshallah ta'ala, generate more meaningful funds, inshallah ta'ala, and how to still do the philanthropic work that we do as relief organizations, and still, inshallah ta'ala, have a healthy financial balance to see to all of these different projects that all of you run.